In the fading light of a forsaken meadow, a lone white horse stands, once a symbol of purity and grace, now a grotesque monument to nature's darker whims. Upon its flanks sprawls a monstrous hive, an alien growth pulsating with a sickly intensity, bursting with thousands of buzzing invaders. This isn't the usual scene of pastoral calm. Rather, it's a visceral clash, a horror played out on living flesh. The mass of hexagonal cells, jagged and oozing, forms a hideous crust that breaches the horse's pristine coat, turning it into a vile canvas marked by nature's cruel intervention. Each cell teems with bees, their restless movement a maddening hum that grows louder with each moment. For any witness, the sight is both magnetic and repellent, a raw testament to biology's ruthless persistence. The infestation itself is a complex saga of survival and decay. Bees, usually the diligent architects of order and productivity, here become agents of torment. They colonize the wound, exploiting the horse's weakened immune defenses and the organic material exposed beneath the surface. The hive expands in the wilderness, where the apex predator roams with lethal grace. A dark and ghastly spectacle challenges our very understanding of survival and decay. If you will, a magnificent leopard, its sleek golden coat marred by a grotesque and festering wound, a hideous cocoon pulsating with the sinister life of parasitic invaders. This is no ordinary injury. It is a living nightmare wrought by nature's less visible terrors. The open flesh reveals a macabre scene, thousands of parasitic larvae, nestled closely in clustered cocoons, feeding relentlessly on the leopard's muscle and flesh, their bodies writhing and twisting beneath a translucent, slimy membrane. As one contemplates this unsettling tableau, a chilling realization sets in. This horror is not a fantasy, but a stark reality faced by creatures even as formidable as this leaping shadow of the jungle. The parasite cocoon infestation is a phenomenon where certain parasitic insects, often botfly larvae or warble flies, lay their eggs on or under the skin of a mammal, in this case, its unfortunate host the leopard. Upon hatching, the larvae burrow beneath the skin, creating cavities where they spin protective silk like cocoons. These cocoons serve as safe cradles for their development as they gorge on the host's tissue, blood, and interstitial fluids. This parasitic invasion often results in an abhorrent swelling, oozing pus, necrotic tissue, and an unbearable stench, all trapped inside these biological prisons. The skin inflates like a grotesque balloon, and the leopard's movements become awkward and painful, a tragic contrast to its usual lithe agility. What's particularly revolting is the multitude of tiny breathing holes puncturing the cocoon's surface, allowing larvae to exchange gases with the outside world while securely ensconced within their macabre nursery. From a scientific standpoint, this infestation highlights an interplay of evolutionary adaptation and beneath the dense canopy of an ancient forest, where light struggles to pierce the thick foliage, lies a scene both mesmerizing and grotesque. A wild monkey, its once sleek fur matted and patchy, bears a wound that seems almost pulsating with life. This isn't just any injury. It's a grotesque hive of parasitic infestation, a writhing colony of tiny invaders burrowed deep beneath the monkey's skin. At first glance, the sight is shocking, a raw, oozing mass of decay and life intertwined, an unsettling reminder that nature often teeters on the edge of beauty and horror. These parasites, invisible to the casual observer, have created a gruesome fortress within the monkey's flesh. Each pustule and blister harbors thousands of microscopic creatures, thriving in the warm, nutrient-rich environment of the wound. It's as though the monkey has become an unwilling host to an army of tiny vampires, feeding on its blood, draining its vitality, and multiplying with terrifying efficiency. Beneath the surface, the parasite in the shadowy depths of the African savanna, where life thrives in a brutal ballet of survival, there lurks a scene both grotesque and riveting, a magnificent leopard, once a symbol of stealth and power, now marred by an unsettling spectacle. This leopard bears the heavy price of nature's relentless cycles, its body overtaken by a horrific cocoon wound, pulsating with unsettling life forms, as if nature itself has turned predator upon its own. Layers of slick, glistening cocoons cling to its flesh, creating a macabre armor that is both a prison and a nursery. This grotesque shroud distorts the sleek contours of its body, transforming the cunning hunter into a slow, burdened host to an infestation that is as fascinating as it is horrifying. The leopard's once lustrous fur is matted with festering discharge, the skin beneath swollen and angry, dark with infection and chaos. This haunting image draws us into a dark chapter of parasitism that reveals the brutal chemistry of survival far beyond the predator's typical domain. Parasite cocoon infestation, in the context of this leopard, is a deeply invasive assault carried out by parasitic larvae known to exploit mammals as incubation chambers. This particular affliction begins innocuously when adult flies, often from the botfly or warblefly family, find a vulnerable animal and lay their eggs on its skin or in wounds. When the eggs hatch, the larvae burrow beneath the surface, evading immune defenses with a sinister cunning designed purely for survival and propagation. As these larvae feed on the host tissue, they encase themselves in a fibrous cocoon, a protective case that shields them while they grow. What follows is an eerie invasion. Dozens of these larvae develop beneath the skin, their movements causing swelling, irritation, and deep tissue damage. The leopard's body becomes a grotesque nursery, writhing silently under its own skin, turning pain into an unwelcome companion with every breath and step. The wound itself is a complex in the sweeping savanna, where legends roam under the sun's relentless gaze. A rare and ghostly creature moves with an eerie grace, the white lion. Its milky coat, shimmering like frost in a desert storm, contrasts sharply with a gruesome spectacle etched deeply into its flesh, a barnacle-like wound festering with grim vitality. This living scar is not a mere abrasion, but a grotesque haven for relentless parasites, clinging and thriving in a macabre symbiosis. The sight shocks the senses and shrubs the mind's usual romantic notions of wild majesty with a raw, unsettling truth about survival, a whispered story in flesh and rock. This wound, bizarre and unnatural in this terrestrial monarch, resembles the crusty shells of marine barnacles, those miniature sea invaders notorious for latching onto ship hulls, and the bodies of whales, leeching off their hosts with relentless persistence. Here, in the dusty heart of Earth, these parasitic entities have somehow found a grotesque refuge. They clasp onto the lion's skin with microscopic claws, injecting enzymes that eat away at healthy tissue, turning flesh into a humid, oozing landscape of decay and infestation. This is no superficial scar. Beneath the crust, larvae squirm in festering pockets, their tiny bodies weaving through the lion's dermal layers, spawning a nightmarish colony of decay. These parasites, a plague of insidious invaders, thrive in the warm, nutrient-rich environment created by the lion's weakened immune response. The infestation begins with a single egg, dropped perhaps by a vector in the lion's environment, the buzzard, the fly, the contaminated waterhole, whose larvae hatch and burrow deep, feeding voraciously on living cells, secreting toxins that dull pain and confuse the beast's body defenses. As the infection festers, the injury grows, swelling with pus and dead cells, becoming a breeding ground for secondary infections, bacteria and fungi, circling the wound like vultures waiting patiently for their turn to feast. The lion's white fur, once a symbol of purity and rarity, is stained with crusted layers of excrement and sweat. A grotesque palette of yellows, greens, and browns. The smell alone is enough to unsettle anyone in the depths of the lush, shadowed rainforest where sunlight seldom penetrates. The majestic jaguar prowls, its golden spotted coat a tapestry of nature's artistry. Yet today, this powerful predator carries with it a story far more grotesque than its roaring reputation foretells. A hideous wound festers along its flank, a cavity stabbed into the flesh, swollen and oozing, a grotesque testament to the parasitic horror lurking beneath its skin. This is not just a wound, it is a living nightmare, a gateway to the maddening world of parasite infestation that clings mercilessly to this apex predator. What you're witnessing is a parasitic invasion of an intensity most would recoil from. The wound, blackened and swollen, is infested with a swarm of tiny, writhing organisms, feasting greedily on the jaguar's flesh and blood. These parasites, uninvited guests in what should be the inviolable kingdom of the jaguar's body, burrow deep into muscle tissue, carving out tunnels, laying eggs, and perpetuating their vile life cycle. The skin surrounding the wound is inflamed and eroded, marked by pus and necrotic decay, evidence of battle between the host's immune system and the relentless enemy within. Parasites such as botfly larvae or various blood-sucking arthropods often initiate this grim spectacle. The botfly, for example, cunningly deposits eggs on a mosquito or other insect, which then unwittingly transfers these eggs onto the jaguar's skin. When the eggs hatch, the larvae penetrate the skin, growing beneath the surface, eliciting searing pain and swelling that distorts the natural grace of the jaguar's body. Feeding off tissue and bodily fluids, they create a festering ulcer that serves as both their sanctuary and a beacon for secondary infections. This relationship exemplifies parasitism at its most brutal, where the parasite's survival comes at the host's profound suffering and slow degradation. Around the wound, a scarlet border pulses with inflamed blood vessels, while pus, thick, yellowish, and smelling faintly of decay, oozes relentlessly, attracting flies and other scavengers. Inside the lesion,